The project we'll be working on today is a simple riveted pendant, and we're using a combination of silver, brass, and copper with a riveted bail as well. So we may switch it up a little bit from what we have here, but what we're going to end up with is going to be fairly similar to what you see in front of you. I'm going to run through your tools very quickly. So if any of you were with us for the last project that I taught, which was an easy riveted earring, a lot of these tools will be familiar to you, and we've added just a couple more simple tools, but a lot of the basic stuff is what you used in the other project. I have both copper and brass sheet. This is a small brass texture plate. That's something that's optional, so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you have it, but I figured I'd introduce something like that so that you're familiar with more than just hammers and stamps to create texture on metal. Again, I have two small rulers. One of them is a graphing ruler, the other one is just a small 6-inch ruler. We're going to be using our metal shears again, as I mentioned before in the other class. The metal shears are available at a local hardware store. Harbor Freight Tools Supplies sell them, and you can probably also get shears, I'm sure, at any jewelry supply outlet or on the web. I have a variety of hammers. This stubby hammer is once again a hardware store type of thing, and that's what we'll use to strike any design stamps that we use. I have a hammer that has some interchangeable ends for different textures. And I have what we used as our riveting hammer, which is a standard ball peen hammer that's available probably at your local bead store or at a jewelry supply store, very inexpensive. And this is a chasing hammer. This one is actually rather special. It's made by Frets Hammers. They're custom made, they're expensive. It's the only one in my collection like it, but it's very nice if you need to. We're going to use that to flatten the edge of the bail. You can also use your ball peen hammer to do that as well. Some other basic things that we have are the Sharpie marker. I have some design stamps. We used them last time to texture our metal. I have the two-hole screw-down punch made by Euro Tool, which you can get online as well. And we're going to mostly be using the small hole for that one. We have our eyelet rivets that we used last time as well, and they come in different sizes and different textures, different colors, I'm sorry. Once again, they're available online. And then for the bail, what we're going to use is sterling silver half-round wire. I don't know whether you can see or not, but the bottom of it is flat and the top of it is domed. So you don't necessarily have to have half-round wire. If you don't want to buy any, that's fine. You will be flattening out the ends that we're going to use to rivet the bail on. So the half-round is not an absolute requirement. I personally like the look that it creates. It just gives a nice finished bail. And then introducing something new today is a little heavy to lift over here, but it's called a doming block set. And these are available, once again, jewelry supply stores. This one came from Harbor Freight Tools, and it was relatively inexpensive. You can pay anywhere from probably $28 up to $150 for a doming block set. So if you're just starting out and you want to buy one but you're not quite sure, I would do the Harbor Freight one, and then if you really get into it, you can always move up in quality. But for the purpose, this works just fine. So I'll put that aside. And once again, safety glasses are recommended, and if you need to, you can also, we're going to be using a silver blackener again, which is a chemical instead of a natural element, so rubber gloves if you're more comfortable for the silver blackener that we use. To get started, what I'm going to do is we're going to start off very similar to the way that we did the last project, and that the base of the pendant is going to be a copper square. So I've marked my sheet copper with lines, and they are 7/8 of an inch. I measured down first and then I measured across. So I'm going to use my shears and we're going to go ahead and cut out a square of copper. And when you use your shears, make sure you start at the back of the shear, really in the back of the throat, as far back as possible so that that metal doesn't twist on you. And that way you can get a nice long cut without having to reposition the shears. So basically one cut took me to where I needed to be. And it's not totally straight, but I think I said this the last time, it's handmade, so I'm not always focused on perfection. Okay, so we have our little square of copper, and what I'd like to do is give it a nice overall background texture. So for that, why don't we play with the brass texture sheet that we have. I'm going to put the square of copper on it and then tape it with a piece of masking tape right down to the texture sheet, and actually to my bench block as well, so that everything stays put. And I'm going to go ahead and take my utility hammer and pound it thoroughly to see if we can get that impression on there. Okay, let's see what we have. So when I peel it off, it's not as deep as the brass texture sheet, but it certainly gives us kind of a nice mellow texture on the copper. And I'm fine with that. I don't think it needs to be as defined as this. So we'll peel the tape off. Put that aside. Now what I want to do quickly is to take a file and round those corners nicely, just so they're not sharp. Just try to protect your manicure if you have one, because a file is not a girl's best friend here. Once again, we always file in one direction only, not back and forth. And I've just rounded the corners off so that they're not sharp. You notice I didn't take a file to the very edges. We're going to use our hammer to refine that edge. Now, on the sample, I've done a piece of silver riveted onto the back plate. But today, I think we're going to change it up and we're going to do a piece of brass instead, and then we'll change it and do a silver circle here.